there's a new update right now when it comes to Onyx. Nothing I say is financial advice, but very recently, Onyx made a post talking about how their official site, at least, now has localized translation. For instance, in the case of Turkish and as well as Korean. So I find this very interesting and I find it very cool overall when it comes to Onyx because I think that something like this kind of showcases that they care about their community, right? What I like about it is that they understand that there's going to be, many community members, let's say, in other places as well, right? Not only in just a certain area, and they're thinking about things globally. Now, overall, when I take a look at it, Onyx, what I find cool about them is that they're not only just focused on making random updates for no reason, the updates sometimes actually have substance, right? Because something like this, other projects out there, they might concentrate on other areas, like for instance, making a partnership with a celebrity or an athlete or something like that. But this one seems like they're actually caring more about the community. So I do seem to like that. Now, in the grand scheme of things, though, Onyx, as of late, it hasn't really done too much in terms of the updates, but at least from what I can see, I do find it pretty cool. And keep in mind, right, they're still working towards the mainnet of their layer 1 blockchain. So that's kind of like the biggest thing I think so far that I could look forward to this year at least. They're planning to do it in Q1 of this year. So yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to. But really beyond that, XCN as of right now, slight pullback, but really in the grand scheme of things, I understand that this is an altcoin, so a 10% movement in either direction or something like that. It's just by nature an altcoin, and it's not even such a big altcoin to begin with, So this is why when it comes to something like this, I don't just overreact. Let's just take a look at, for instance, in the case of Bitcoin. Quite a while back ago, it was around 120 grand. Now it's like around 90 grand. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, in other areas, right, in other market sectors, a movement like that feels very drastic. And keep in mind, Bitcoin is literally the biggest project within this space right now. And take a look at that movement. In some other markets, we're talking about years, to do that. So it feels a little bit more intense in this case. And especially, it's kind of more amplified because XCN, it's an altcoin, but it's not even such a big altcoin. Like, for instance, in the case of like a BNB or Ethereum, right? Or Solana, it's not that massive at all. It's not even as big as like, Stellar as a project, nowhere close to that. So in the grand scheme of things, especially when the market's not doing good, these movements, they feel a bit more amplified, which is why when it comes to me, I'm just like, if I didn't like it, I just wouldn't even be in this space. That's it. It's kind of simple, actually. But I knew that kind of getting into it. I'm not going to know exactly what could or would happen, but at least I had kind of this feeling like, okay, it's an altcoin. It's probably going to have these random movements sometimes. And maybe if the market does something, the movements can feel a little bit amplified. But keep in mind, because it's an altcoin, the movement downward sometimes it feels a little bit amplified, right? But that sort of feeling, that sort of movement sometimes, we kind of see that also in the opposite direction. You know what I mean? Usually, when the market does pretty okay, we've seen what altcoins have done historically. In some cases, not every single one, but in some cases. So, it's kind of one of the reasons why I just haven't given up. Now, when it comes to Onyx, just overall, my kind of perception is that 25 cents, it's around 25 times lower than that right now. I mean, but at the same time, I don't think I've seen altcoin season. And actually, seeing XCN having a market cap that is in the hundreds of millions so far, it's something that a lot of people back then, when I was first making a video, when it comes to Onyx, not really many people thought that it could even ever do that. So to me, even with the big pullback from like $1 billion in market cap to right now, despite all that though, I still think that Onyx kind of did pretty impressive things considering how it wasn't even really that good fundamentally back then in my perspective. Like, I liked it, for instance, because it reminded me of a miniature version of like a Stellar or XDC, but it didn't have much going on fundamentally for it. You know what I mean? It had much more going on fundamentally for it after the pullback, right? After it started going down from $1 billion market cap, then we saw the testnet when it comes to this layer 1 blockchain. Then we kind of saw, aspects of Onyx AI agent. But before that, I didn't really see that type of vibe. It wasn't really talked about, So I think overall, despite having this pullback, I think Onyx has come quite a long way in terms of its fundamentals. But beyond all that, right, I'm still waiting. I'm still just, I guess, looking at things and not really doing much other than that. It seems a little bit boring, I get it, but the only thing I can do is stay patient. What else can I do when it comes to this? However, if there's going to be more updates when it comes to Onyx, I'll be talking about it, but really, 25 cents again, we're around 25 times lower than that. I don't know if XLM is around 25 times lower than any point it could ever hypothetically attain if, let's say, there was an altcoin season. I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like, XLM right now has a pretty massive market cap, but I don't know if it's like 25 times lower than its hypothetical ceiling if, let's say, there was an altcoin season. I mean, that's just kind of my mindset sometimes. It's like, for instance, Bitcoin, it's like over 3 times lower than 300 grand, right? But is it 25 times lower than any point it could ever hypothetically, realistically reach during this cycle? You know what I mean? I don't know if I feel too confident in that. It's like, for instance, Ethereum as of right now. Is it 25 times lower than any point it could ever hypothetically reach if there was an altcoin season? You know, that's just kind of my mindset. But beyond all that, though, that's just kind of my thought process right now. When it comes to Onyx, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I just wanted to say, this update when it comes to Onyx. And yeah, I want to say thank you for watching. And I hope you all have a very nice day. It's only the captain, and I'll see you all in the next video.